Good evening. Welcome to Tune In Tuesday. This is Season 2, Episode 27 of the Patriettes podcast. We live stream every Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. right here from the America First Warehouse on Long Island, New York. Welcome, everybody. Hi. You'll notice we're a little light on our cast tonight. We are missing some of our regular girls. Crystal and Shannon are celebrating their mom, Ronnie's birthday. Happy birthday, Ronnie.
Happy birthday, Ronnie. We love you.
They're celebrating in true Daughters of Revolution spirit at the Culper Spy Ring restaurant in Setauket. How fun is that?
Yeah.
So we'll have to hear all about that next week.
It's fitting since they have the history in their family.
It is. It is. Where else would they do that, right? And then of course T is still home recovering. So we're still with you, T. We're praying for you, and we can't wait to have you back. Feel better.
Yeah, feel better, Mama.
So we do have. Not quite a Patriot.
Well, in this day and age, you can be whatever you want.
One of these doesn't look like the other. But anyway, we have a wonderful guest, Nick Giordano. He's an esteemed professor, a political science professor. He runs a podcast called the PAS Report Political Podcast. And we're very happy and honored to have you with us tonight, Nick.
Yes,
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you came to do it.
Well, I'm probably one of the very few conservative academics that exist in this day and age, and obviously academia has been taken over. So I jumped into academia 20 years ago. I got into the classroom. During that time, I was a little bit of an adjunct for 8 years, and I was in emergency management and homeland security doing that, which was fun. But then a full-time slot opened up, so I jumped into it. And then over the years, my students always encouraged me to start a podcast. And so finally, I just took the plunge. I figured I could speak in a 3-hour class without missing a beat. How hard could it be? And then I just created a massive amount of work for myself.
It's not as easy as it looks when we're up here, that's for sure.
Definitely not.
There's a lot goes into it. Where do you find your podcast, by the way?
Anyone could go to any podcast platform, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, you name it, I'm on it, and they could just type in PAS Report or Nicholas Giordano, and it'll pop up.
Great, awesome.
How long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it now for about 4 years, and the main reason I did it was to give Americans an education, because in the schools, they're being taught to have disdain for the country, to hate the country. And you look, most Americans never read the founding documents. They don't understand the roles and responsibilities of our institutions, and they don't understand what their civic obligations are. So the podcast is really centered about getting back to our founding, looking at limited government, personal responsibility, self-reliance, all the things that made America such an exceptional nation, and teach people what the American identity is. And then obviously I'll talk about the political issues of the day, provide my analysis on it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and there's a lot of ugly out there.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
There is.
I just heard today that the Supreme Court announced that they sided with President Trump on the ban for him to eliminate government workers.
Yeah, well, what we're witnessing by the courts, the lower courts, has been completely ridiculous. If we look at the nationwide injunctions, President Trump has more nationwide injunctions against him than all the other presidents combined in the 20th century. And they stopped him from firing. This was about provisional employees. These weren't civil service workers. They don't get civil service protection.
It's kind of like illegal aliens who don't have the protections of our government. But go ahead.
Well, it's amazing. Like, they say that the president can't enforce immigration law, that the president can't determine who works for the bureaucracy, who doesn't, even if they're provisional, who could join the military and who can. I mean, whether or not we fund DEI, you look at it, everything they're trying to stop Trump from doing, I ask, well, then what can a president do?
Right.
Why even have a president at that point?
Exactly.
And the judiciary has tried to usurp the role of the chief executive officer of the United States. It's nice to see that the system is working, though, because the Supreme Court is stepping in, saying that these district court judges are going well beyond their bounds.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when you look at what they're doing to him, and he's not just ignoring what's being done like Biden did and like, prior. He doesn't just say, forget what you said, Supreme Court, I'm going to go do whatever I want to do. He is actually going through the process.
Due process, right.
And getting it up to the Supreme Court level, and then these things are being overturned.
Well, that's a great point. They try and label him a fascist and a dictator and an authoritarian, yet it was the previous president that said he didn't care what the Supreme Court ruled when it came to student loan forgiveness.
That's right.
In fact, he actually bragged about it. So it's interesting how it works. He is abiding by the lower court rulings until it gets to the Supreme Court. But again, it's something that shouldn't even be before the courts in the first place.
Exactly.
But it shows that the Supreme Court is still doing their due diligence. They're hearing the cases. They're listening and looking at the evidence, and they're ruling within the constitutional boundaries of the United States.
Thank God.
And that, to me, is critically important here.
Yeah.
It is critically important.
And it's actually showing the lawfare. It's showing, like, by him doing this, it actually is showing
how corrupt the system has
is.
become. Yeah.
You know, you think that just because, you know, we live in a world of law and order that you really do, you know, it's tough. It's tough to have to watch this happen when we know, really, what he's capable of doing. And it's just
what he's authorized to do,
Yeah,
what he has
yeah.
the authority, the constitutionally appointed, like
Yeah.
the way our government was set up. That is, he's doing and trying to do what he is permitted and authorized to do, and meeting a lot of stumbling blocks, right? A lot of roadblocks.
Absolutely. And I think on my part, it's so frustrating watching the ideologues that sit on the bench that are ruling by ideology. They're not taking any constitutional arguments into consideration.
Right.
They want to push a far left agenda. They want to engage in judicial activism. And to me, that's the worst part, because we've seen our entire government taken over by ideologues. They're not public servants anymore. They believe that they exist to rule over us.
That's been going on for a long time, way before Trump administration. I mean, our government, in my opinion, I feel like our government's been usurped by, and you can look at any side, either party, lots of people who just don't have the will of the people. They don't go up there and serve the will of the people.
Well,
They're not
I
public
could say
servants.
when I was in emergency management, I worked for the New York State Office of Emergency Management. So ultimately, my boss was Emperor Cuomo. And I wasn't a big fan of Emperor Cuomo, but never once in any type of an emergency did I say, well, the governor's wrong, so I'm going to inject my conservative ideology, and we're only going to deliver resources to red communities, not blue communities. It never crossed my mind to put my politics into the job and the mission that we were doing. And that's has changed dramatically. And it's almost as if the bureaucracy itself has emerged as the fourth branch of government that seems independent of Congress and even independent of the presidency. Some can argue that the bureaucracy has become more powerful than the president. And that, to me, is alarming. The president's supposed to be in charge of the bureaucracy. Congress has oversight over it. But when you have a bureaucracy that does whatever it wants without any fear of accountability or anything, when you have judges in the district court level that believe that they could inject their ideology into it, that's not what the founders intended.
No.
So let's talk about this one big, beautiful bill before we've got a few minutes left here.
Yeah.
That passed on his desk on July 4th.
4th of July.
It was amazing. Yep.
Big, beautiful bill on big, beautiful 4th of July.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big bill, and there are elements of it that are beautiful, elements
some
not
that
so
are not.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that reveals one of the interesting things during this whole debate is the Republicans fighting amongst themselves, exchanging ideas, talking about the issues and the policies, where Democrats just know it's bad and that's it. The reality is no piece of legislation is ever going to be perfect. There's always going to be trade-offs. I don't like the fact of these, 1,000, 2,000-page bills coming before Congress.
I said that last
Nobody
week.
reads them.
Yeah.
I don't like that aspect to it. But the good thing is that the tax cuts are now permanent. They've been codified into the system, and so we don't have to worry about our taxes going up. Being from New York, I am happy that the SALT deduction got raised. I know a lot of people don't like that out there. But listen, we subsidize flood insurance for a lot of people throughout the country. And so if I'm feeling some economic relief, I'm happy about it. It's about self-interest. I like the fact that we're funding Border Patrol and ICE and our border. I like the missile defense system that we're going to be building out. What I don't like is that it didn't tackle spending. And there'll be Republicans that criticize me and say, well, this wasn't really a spending bill. But it kind of was, because we increased spending in defense and immigration. And we have to get rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse within the government. I also don't like the fact that we didn't see any real reforms within this bill. It's not supposed to be necessarily a policy bill, but we've seen the abuse of the bureaucracy throughout the years, from the FBI, the CIA, National Intelligence, ODNI. And so I would like to see that begin to be reined in. And as of right now, I don't see it.
Why do you think that is, Nick? You have any thoughts on,
Because the bureaucracy is a powerful force.
Yeah.
I think that it's easy to say when you're the minority party and you're not in power that, hey, these agencies are abusing their power. We need to cut funding. We need to bring them in. But then once you take control, Republicans like power too. And we have to be honest
People like
about
power.
it. Think about FISA. Okay, Republicans, ever since Trump and the Russian collusion hoax, Republicans have been screaming about FISA. Republicans get a chance to reform it, and most of them vote just to keep it going.
Keep it, yeah. It's disappointing for sure. Sometimes I used to try to give a little bit of grace to say, well, you have to give a little to get a little, baby steps. But in 1,000-page documents and bills of this size, you would
Yeah,
hope
it's
that we would have
crazy.
seen a little bit more in the way of reform, no doubt, for the corruption that we see, and having accountability come back, because otherwise it just will continue. It'll perpetuate.
Well, and I think the abuses of power that we've witnessed, I mean, I could go back to the NSA spying on every single American, collecting their metadata through the PRISM program because of the Patriot Act. We saw Lois Lerner at the IRS targeting Tea Party groups.
Right.
The CIA, John Brennan's CIA in 2014 was caught spying on literally sitting members of the United States Senate Intelligence Committee, and not a single person was held accountable. We know about the Russian collusion hoax.
And Americans are hungry for accountability, and they're hungry for that. I think people on both sides of the aisle want that, and we need to see it. So I don't know how we go from here to there and get that done, but it definitely needs to happen. And the other piece, before we go to commercial break, is definitely, I agree with you wholeheartedly, the piece about reining in the spending and the waste. I mean, that was the whole idea of DOGE. Everybody was so excited to see it, and then what happened? But anyway, we have to go to commercial break. We will be right back. We're going to bring some more guests on. Stay tuned.
Corrupt judges, broken families, families torn apart. This isn't justice. If you've been wronged by the system, join us. Don't stand alone. Hi, I'm Gary Jacobs, president of Americans for Legal Reform. We're the oldest legal reform group in the United States. The justice system in the United States should be transparent, fair, and open to everybody and accessible. Unfortunately, many times that's not the case. At Americans for Legal Reform, we are here to help. Join the movement. Visit AmericansForLegalReform.com and help reform the system before it fails you.
The America First Ultra MAGA Store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA Store.